actually creating online video gaming content, and I had the opportunity to attend the event and record interviews and cover some of the upcoming games that were being shown there. Actually, looking back now, it does feel like quite a surreal experience, because I was still like quite young, and traveling, for it being my first time actually traveling, and I took quite a bit of equipment as well, but it ended up becoming a trip that I still remember very clearly, even now, many years later. So tonight I thought I'd take you along with me. I remember when I first booked the flights a few days before the event. At the time, everything just felt like quite exciting, but also I was slightly nervous as well. I'd never actually done anything like this before, like interviewing anyone, or let alone getting it on camera and everything. I was preparing the cameras and the microphones and all the recording gear, everything basically that I needed to conduct the interviews at the convention. It did actually feel like a lot of responsibility, but at the same time it was like a good opportunity for me to grow and develop. The flights actually that I booked from the UK are leaving from Manchester Airport, with a connection through Berlin before actually arriving in Cologne. So I packed my bags along with all the equipment, which made it very heavy. But at that point, because I was just excited, I never really thought about the logistics and how difficult it would be to carry all this around by myself. And I guess at that point I didn't really have any comprehension of distance. And on the first day that I started travelling, it started quite early. I arrived at Manchester Airport in the morning, ready for the first flight of the journey. The first leg would take me to Berlin, Tegel Airport. I remember sitting by the window in the terminal, watching the planes on the runway and thinking about everything that was about to happen over the next few days. Because I'd never really flown before, and because I do have a little bit of a fear of heights, I didn't know what to expect. Taking off for the first time was a crazy experience for me. I'm not really good with like roller coasters and stuff. I've been to like Alton Towers and Lightwater Valley and all these theme parks, and every time I just like force myself to getting onto rides and end up like hating it after. But I just remember sitting by the window watching these planes take off, and the good thing looking back at it now about flying is I kind of just so the flight itself was fairly short and smooth, and before I knew it, I'd arrived in Berlin. But yeah, because it was my first time, I didn't really feel like it was a long journey. I think it took like, I want to say, up to 3 hours. It was 2 to 3 hours. But there was a long layover, actually in Berlin for like several hours before the next flight, and I just ended up staying in the airport and like getting food and stuff. And the airports themselves, it had a very particular atmosphere. People were just quietly moving through the terminal as like announcements sort of echoed through the building. Eventually, the time came for the second flight, and most of the time that I spent in the airport, I was nervous about missing my second flight, so I guess that made the time run pretty quickly. This one would take me straight to Cologne airport, and by the time I landed, it was already the evening, and the weather was quite bad, from what I can recall. It was just dark, and there was very heavy rain. So when I landed in Cologne, after collecting my luggage, which took a little while because of all the equipment, I just made my way towards the train station at the airport, and at that point I was quite tired, having travelled most of the day, with the long stopover as well, carrying heavy bags and trying to navigate a new place. I remember standing there for a moment, looking at the train schedules, trying to figure out which train I needed to take. This is where one of the first memorable moments happened. A pilot, actually, who happened to be there. There was nobody else because it was so late. They noticed that I was a bit confused, and I asked them for directions, and he kindly helped, and he pointed me in the right direction of the correct train to take, and just explained which one would take me closest to my hotel. It was a very small interaction, but it just made the arrival feel much easier because, like I said, there was no one around, and it just made it a bit easier. So once I boarded the train and travelled into the city, it was the first train that I took anyway. It just felt a bit like, how can I explain this? The vibe itself was like I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Warriors. But yeah, it kind of gave off that vibe. Yeah, so it was like raining, quite heavy. So, and it was night, so it was good to see. It was actually good to see the city lit up, which is pretty cool. When I first arrived, so when I actually got to the correct station, I made my way to the hotel where I would be staying, and now that I look back on it, I think it was a mistake, because I actually booked 2 hotels, and there's this was the first hotel that I'd be staying at. And yeah, you'll figure out the mistake as we go through the story. So by the time I reached the hotel, I was completely soaked. Because I was kind of slow in getting there because I was trying to direct from the map that I had, and I didn't have no Google Maps. I just had a map. And when I arrived at the first hotel where I'd be staying the first night, by the time I reached the hotel, I was completely soaked from the rain. But I was welcomed. I did receive like a warm welcome by the host. I messaged them the day before, mentioning that I would get there quite late, and they immediately sort of helped me settle in. It's not like a huge hotel. It's not a commercial hotel, but it's a really good hotel. It's called the Merlin, and they showed me around the building, explained where breakfast would be served in the morning and what time it would start, and then they showed me to my room, explained everything, and just after a long day of travelling, it just felt nice to finally put my bags down and rest. Again, being my first time travelling and stuff, I didn't really know if this was, I guess this is normal, but I had like a really weird sensation where I felt like I just got hit with a ton of bricks, and it just felt weird, I guess. And then I just figured that's what they call like jet lag. And the overall sort of atmosphere that I noticed in the city, even from the first few interactions, was actually very relaxed. Like, the people were very friendly and very open to conversation and stuff. So yeah, I just ended up settling in, and I wish I could have just gone to sleep straight away, but I ended up just getting all my stuff out and making sure I was ready for the next day. Putting all my gadgets and stuff on charge and just getting ready. And then finally I went to sleep. The next morning, before I left for the convention centre, I had some breakfast. I think I just had some fruit or something. I just remember I didn't really eat much. Before heading out to the Cologne Messe, which is where Gamescom takes place. So I left my bags at the hotel, went straight there, and walking into the event for the first time, it was quite overwhelming. Like, the halls were enormous, filled with like different sort of gaming booths, stages, demonstrations, and like thousands of people. I just spent like the first few hours just walking around, exploring the different areas and getting familiar with the layout. There were quite a few sort of companies that I recognised, like there was like a Turtle Beach experience with like I think it was Call of Duty Black Ops 2 at the time. There was another one that I'd seen, I think it was Medal of Honor Warfighter, and I just got a few photos in front of me just to sort of jog my memory, because there's only parts that I remember. And there was like quite a few like cosplay people there. I think there was like a few zombies and was so much happening, like everywhere you looked. It was like very busy, basically, around sort of the time that I was sort of walking around. I did play like a few games. I played a Justice League game. It's like a fighter game that I played. And I did play in the Turtle Beach Call of Duty 2. It was like a competition to sort of win like some shirts and stuff, which is pretty cool. Around sort of mid-afternoon, I left the convention centre to check into another place where I'd be staying. It was like a 20-minute walk away. And again, I had to collect all my luggage from the first hotel. I think, looking back on it now, this is where I kind of made like a mistake. If I was to do it all over again, that is, I would have just planned it a lot better than I did. But nonetheless, it's part of the experience, and it was a crazy experience. So I went back to the Merlin, I got all my bags and dragged it all the way over. The second hotel was 20 minutes away, so it was a bit further down. I got to do some sightseeing, so that was the only plus side. I seen the Lanix arena. There was quite a few like arenas and training facilities around for like I think it was like ice hockey. So yes, that was pretty cool. So yeah, but it was about a 20-minute walk, and eventually when I got there, I had to call the landlord or the owner or whatever to try and get in and check in. But when I arrived, I just dropped all my stuff and I just rested for a bit because it had been sort of like a long day at that point. And later that day, I was actually following on Twitter, I think it was. There was a group, as a bunch of sort of YouTubers that worked for Machinima, and it's a funny story actually that I forgot. I just remembered now. And the first stopover in Berlin, I remember seeing them run for their flight as though they were gonna miss it. It was quite hilarious. It was because I was following them on Twitter. They announced that they were gonna be there, etc. at the event, and when I seen them running through the airport, I just found it quite hilarious because I was so tired at that point. I was just literally sat there watching like people moving in and out, and I remember distinctly actually remember someone picking out plastic bottles from bins, because I later on found out that you could trade in your plastic bottles for money. I think it was like 20 cents or something, or 5 cents, something like that. But yeah, I think the person was like homeless or something, so they were just trying to find like plastic bottles to trade in for money. But then while I was like experiencing that for the first time, I just see some people running past, and I looked up and I recognized them. And yeah, so back to the original topic. So yeah, after I settled into the second hotel and dropped all my stuff, they actually mentioned on Twitter that they were doing a meetup. So I went to attend the meetup, was like a cool experience meeting them. It was content I'd only seen online, but getting to meet them in person and eventually at the event as well was pretty cool. Everyone was just so relaxed and sort of friendly, and the atmosphere around the city during the convention felt very lively as well, so it was good. And because it was sort of like mid summertime, it was quite light during the evening, so it was really good. And I actually met Zark and Hollywood before I went to the second hotel. So yeah, it was quite cool to see them. And yeah. Yeah, so at some point during the trip, it was like over a span of 4 or 5 days. I also took some time to explore the city itself. One of the places that I visited was the Hohenzollern Bridge. The bridge crosses the Rhine River, and it was covered in sort of like thousands of locks, like they call them love locks, attached to the railings. Just like standing there, you can like look across the river, and basically it's such a good view because you can see one of the most impressive landmarks in the city, the Cologne Cathedral. The cathedral was massive. It's just so like enormous, and even from a distance it completely like dominated the skyline. So as I walked closer to it, you definitely start to notice the incredible detail of like the architecture and stuff. And it's one of those places that feels surreal. It's one of those that feels so surreal when you see it in person. So during that day, I did go to the convention centre, but I only sort of like stayed around the outskirts, basically. And inside the cathedral itself, there was 533 spiral steps, and it was quite like small. So when there's people like walking up and down the stairs, it's quite hard to sort of like get through. I remember that I just thought it was quite funny because I had no idea I was going to be walking up to the top of this cathedral at all during my trip. Like I said, I didn't really plan much. I just knew that I was going there to film interviews, so discovering the cathedral was something else. Yeah, I don't know how long it took me. It says here that it takes around 30 minutes to go up and down, but I'm pretty sure it took me longer. Yeah, it was so cool. Right at the top, there was such a good view. I could see where the first hotel, I could actually see the second hotel as well. I could see the convention centre, and you actually get a cool view of like the Rhine River and the bridge as well. So it was a good view from the top. So it was definitely worth going all the way up. There was probably many other sort of like sites that I just didn't recognize, but yeah, the view is amazing from the top. Coming back down was a bit easier, but then going up, but yeah. To be honest with you, I do wish I could go back as well. Like, looking back on these photos, it kind of makes me miss the place. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to, I don't know, I think this was like that was the first day. That was the second day, me sightseeing. I'm just trying to order everything. I think when I uploaded as I'm looking at the photos, basically, I think these photos are in order. So on the second day, on the morning before I went sightseeing, was this the second day? It must be second day. Yeah, there was another sort of there was a tournament going on, and or like a competition. I don't think it was an official tournament. I think it was just a competition for Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and I actually got to be in the same team as Sark, and there was a few other people, but I think they were just random people, to be honest. I don't think they were part of Machinima or anything. And we came first. I'm pretty sure we came first. It was a match of domination. We came first, which was cool. And I got a picture with David Von der Hart, the game developer, the head game developer, Treyarch, which was quite cool. So yeah, that was before I went to the cathedral. Now that I think back to it, I probably did more on that day. I just didn't take many photos before I went sightseeing. So the next day, it was one of the busiest days of the trip in terms of like conducting interviews and covering some of the upcoming games that were being shown at the event. So there were several titles that I was able to see, including Assassin's Creed 3, Dishonored, and Hitman Absolution. Each booth had its own presentation area where developers would demonstrate the games and talk about the features of the game. Again, another major title was Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And it was so like the people that were presenting were just so cool and chill, because it was like my first time. It was like, you know, they were very welcoming and you know, very like informative as to what was happening through the event, like in their sort of dealings. Yeah, so I was a bit nervous setting up the camera and stuff like that, and I had like my list of questions and stuff. I did like a little bit of preparation, so I had like my questions and stuff for each game. The Assassin's Creed 3 guy was cool. The Dishonored guy was really cool. The guy that I interviewed for Hitman Absolution was really cool. Black Ops 2 was a different story. I wasn't able to interview for Black Ops 2, but I was still able to chat to some of the developers about the game itself, which was good. It was a lot different from the other interviews though. Very different. There wasn't, because they didn't want to give too much away, that's why. So they give me sort of information about press packs and stuff where I could find like where I could download the footage and stuff like that to add to my interview. At one point during the event, there was a small tournament taking place. Another one which I unexpectedly ended up winning, which was good. And the actual main tournament that I watched, I was sat in the crowd and I realised afterwards that it was being live streamed, and I got to watch it on the live stream, and I was like, I'm somewhere in the crowd there. There was a few like crazy moments during that time, like in the second hotel, because it was so hot when I was there. Well, it was warmer than the UK anyway. At that moment, I opened the window at night to try and sleep because it was so warm I couldn't sleep. There was a lot of bugs and mosquitoes that came in, so I just couldn't sleep that moment. But that's one of the funny things that I remember happening. And the second hotel was next to the train tracks, which made it a bit difficult to sleep. But anyway, it was still a good trip. Eventually, the time came to head home, and I packed up my equipment and made my way back to Cologne airport. It was a bit easier this time because I actually knew where I was going. The return journey involved another connection. This time it was through Munich before flying back to the UK. Again, it was quite a long stopover, and finally I returned to Manchester airport after several busy days, yeah. And it was nice to head home, but at the same time I did miss the place. I did miss Cologne and the travelling. It was weird because it was so tiring, and yeah. Actually, I do remember something when I was travelling back on the last leg, the last flight to Manchester from Munich. I think it was like 2.5 hours the flight. I was so agitated after half an hour. I looked at my watch. I looked at the time, and when I seen I had 2 hours left, I just was going in. It was just driving me insane because I just wanted to get home at that point, and I just felt like so fidgety and like, yeah. I felt like claustrophobic on the flight home. But the flight food was nice. I flew through Lufthansa Airlines, and obviously plane food is my first time like trying the whole plane experience. But yeah, the food was quite nice. It was just sandwiches. It wasn't nothing extravagant, but yeah, it was good still nonetheless. Yeah, looking back on it now, the thing that stands out the most is just it being my first time, my first flight, my first like event as well, big event, and just recording. Looking back now, the thing that stands out the most was just like it being my first experience, basically, and I don't think there was like a particular thing that stood out. I think I had favourite moments throughout the journey. like the flights. Most people hate stopovers, but because it was my first time, I actually really enjoyed them because it was like just a crazy experience for me. Like there wasn't much going on, but just stopping over in an airport for, I'm pretty sure it was 9 hours. I'm pretty sure it would drive anyone else insane, but I just enjoyed like the whole experience. And traveling alone with all the equipment, attending one of the biggest gaming conventions in the world, it just felt like a very big adventure back then. And even now, many years later, the memory of that trip is still very clear. I found some photos from the competitions. The Turtle Beach VIP competition was, yeah, that was one. Second one, the other one was, it was multi-team deathmatch. That's the one that I won with the Machinima team. Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, it was a good experience, and it was a big adventure back then, going through the first day of it, like me arriving in like heavy rain and it being dark and everything, and the huge convention halls, exploring the city, and the quiet moments in between. Just really cool experience overall. If I was to change something, if I was to go back and do it all again, first thing I would do is book my flight early. As in, like, book it maybe at least 2 months before the convention. And I would also book a direct flight instead of connecting flights, if that's an option. I'm not sure. Probably, I think so. I wouldn't arrive at night. I would arrive during the day. I wouldn't book 2 hotels. I would have booked 1. I wouldn't. No, I think I would take the equipment that I did take. I think the equipment I took was pretty good, actually. I think that's it. And actually, no. I think I would focus more of my time on the convention. Well, because the first day I had to move hotels, I couldn't really focus. But yeah, without the whole moving hotel thing, I think obviously, naturally, I would have had more time to spend on the first day at the convention center. Yeah. They were the only things I would change if I did it all again. But yeah, that was my first experience of flying and going to Germany, and yeah, I just think like the people were really cool, like the locals really good, really like chilled out, helpful as well. Yeah. I actually found out one of the days, I am not making this story up, I actually read an article, like after I'd left, I'd already gone at that point, and I was back home. A tiger escaped from the zoo, and I looked at where the zoo was, and it was just down the river from where my hotel was and where the convention center was. So that was a little trivia for you. Thank you guys for listening to this travel memory with me tonight. And I hope you found the story relaxing. And yeah, just thank you for spending the time with me today. I do hope you feel calm, relaxed and at ease after listening. Making the video was really enjoyable, just going back in time to my first journey abroad. If you enjoyed the video, you are very welcome to leave a like, comment or subscribe. It does really help my channel grow. And I'll be back very soon with some gentle, relaxing content for you. But until next time, take care and sleep well.